Okay, my name's Tim. My name's Tim Stolzenburg, and I currently live in Berlin. I used to work for a company called Inflate in London for a couple of years, and this presentation is about stuff I like, which is a bit lame title, but it's not so much about commercial projects I'm doing. I'm a product designer, by the way, but more like stuff I enjoy doing. So at the beginning, when I started at Inflate, I really got into experimenting with materials and processes, namely Inflate doing lots of plastic stuff. It was HF welding, dip molding, small products, bit of furniture. This is an inflatable chair designed, and this is a prototype for a birdhouse. But we quickly moved into larger scale projects, installations and event stuff. This is a project we did in Berlin for a gallery, which is like with a high pressure system, an inflatable viewing platform, which has no structure whatsoever, just an inflatable holding the whole thing up. And we installed it in 2 days, and it looked fantastic at night, and people could stand in it and walk up it. It's all held by inflatables. But it didn't last very long because in Berlin, the youth really enjoyed stabbing it. So I kept flying back to Berlin and repairing it, and after 4 weeks, they had to take it down. It was completely ruined, which was a shame because it was a nice project. I also did a lot of larger scale structures with Inflate. This is a 24-meter dome. Even if the project was much bigger, the time to realize it was a really short one. I designed the whole thing in 2 days, and we built and made it in 2 weeks, and it was up. And it was a very successful project. This was much larger. This is a 50-meter across platform with we did it for a mobile phone company, Motorola, which was like a training center. And this project completely went tits up. The reason why I took this picture was I was up on the crane and I had to repair the roof hanging down for 4 hours to fix the leaks. During my time at Inflate, I did a lot of pattern making. So after 5 years at Inflate, I was an expert in making patterns for any type of structure or object whatsoever on a computer, and then turn it into real life objects. And then from that, when I left Inflate, I started using my skills and applying them to something else. Here's an experiment I did. I wanted to make a stool, so you can see here on the top right, the pattern was right, and I filled it with self-expanding foam, and it completely exploded into my face and turned into this. But that was the first experiment, and it was really fun. But from that, I moved on to trying something else, still with the pattern making, but using tape and styrene, and then fill it with foam. So this is the mold just taped up. And the nice thing about it is an instant object, instant furniture. It takes like 5 minutes and it's a finished stool. It looks a bit ugly, but it's just a prototype. But it's stuff I enjoy. I then later translated this into not using the pattern to fill it with something rigid, but the pattern itself becomes the rigid object. Here I'm using laser cutting, aluminium, and then which is quite a well-known industrial process now, but then combining it with handmade, like crafty procedure to actually make a 3D object which is rigid and stable. So this is a table and the bench system. And up there you can see waterjet cutting, but then we turned it into like a proper handmade object or a piece of furniture. Okay, here's the furniture. So this is the table and bench set I made for like garden use. Which still, like, I'm using industrial processes, but then handcraft, so it's not like that commercially viable as a product for me as a designer. I have to make them like a bit by bit, made to order. This is another thing I really like, is using standard components, which means as a student, you don't have any money, you're a design student, you have to use what's there. So you go into a builder's merchant or timber merchant, and you use all the standard bits you can find to make something or to mock something up. So from this, I had the idea of why not create your own set of tools like a Lego system. You use the standard sized wood strips, you use standard sized screws and all these fittings and inserts, but you create your own kind of language with it and design furniture that's based on it and also kind of expresses the idea of using these components. So the final result was this, called bracket chairs. And they're designed with the brackets as a structural element in mind, and the wood just used as normal strips you can buy in a timber merchant, and take in the visual language from that. So it's very simple, very basic, but yeah, the trick is all in the brackets. The next thing, like I moved on through the industrial processes of laser cutting. This is still all like before, it was all like still hand finishing, handmade. So I really wanted to do something that turns into like real industrial production. So the idea here, this is something I showed in Milan this year, the furniture fair. It's a shelving system based on, again, laser cutting and folding, based on the idea of filing. So you can see, the file tabs, it's just a file turned upside down. You can extend it endlessly, and it becomes a system rather than, an object you buy as in a furniture shop. So you can extend it as long as you want, and yeah, it's based on that. So it's more commercial. The last project I'm showing you is something, I worked a lot with rapid prototyping. I don't know if you know anything about it. Basically, nowadays, it's like a 3D printer. With a laser, you can harden layers of plastic to create 3D objects. And it's a very cool process. And normally, it's used for car manufacturers to prototype structural elements or machinery. But I thought, like, this process is so new and there's no control over it. Why not turn it into something? What's the real potential of it? So you could use it to create objects that can't be traced. They have no serial number. They have no control, no governing body to control what you're actually making. And maybe you can download a file from the internet. If you have the machine at home, you can create objects that could kill someone. So I designed a gun, this is the first prototype. It's a real working gun. And all the mechanics are just done in one process. So basically, you type in the file, and the machine produces the finished article. What you have to do in the end is load real bullets, and then it works. And there's no serial number, no control over it. So for terrorists, this would be a very nice thing to do. Anyway.